Hello guys and gals, and welcome. So we just talked about the Virtuous Barrier and why the Virtuous Barrier isn't the most amazing, but on the next skill points is Advanced Thaumaturgy. Now Advanced Thaumaturgy just simply says gem quality grants socketed skills and additional effect. And the massive chongus nature of this particular Ascendancy is just kind of underrated. It has put Gemling Legionnaire back on the map and honestly made Gemling Legionnaire ridiculously powerful. Now, to go over the exact specifics of how this works, you have to take a look at like every single skill. And unfortunately, you can't just take a look at the skills on your character. You have to take a look at the skills like on your skill panel. So when you look at them just like this, they don't show the additional effect. But when you put them on your character as an actual skill, you will see the additional effect right here, which is 20% chance to not remove charges on use. Now, the full listing of this is available online, and it's something that I would highly recommend that you go over to kind of like figure out exactly like what you want to do with a character. It's kind of crazy just how absolutely massive this particular ability is. And for this purpose, we're going to go to the website and we're going to talk about all the various things that you can do with this ability. And hopefully get a better idea of how you can leverage that to make your interesting characters. So if you go to PoE2DB and you look up Advanced Thaumaturgy, which is the skill itself that basically we're talking about. And it's right here. It's poe2db.tw/advanced_thaumaturgy. So you can just go to that link or you can Google it. Now, if you take a look down here, you can look at all of the skills. Every single ability in the game has some additional effects on it, which are actually kind of crazy. Just to go over a few right off the bat, I mean, let's just start at the top. And let's look at charges. So let's just type in charge. So Barrage has a 20% chance not to remove charges on use, which is insane. And combined together with a couple items, some passive nodes, you can get that up almost to 100% or to 100% chance not to remove charges, which is insane. Same thing goes for just about all these abilities that have chance not to remove charges. There's also ones that reduce the time delay on gaining a frenzy charge. There's also buffs that grants increased damage per charge, which is crazy. Charge regulation gets a huge buff from this. Falling Thunder also has the chance not to remove charges. Explosive Spear, Flicker Strike, Glacial Lance. This is actually crazy. If you think about it from a certain perspective, utilizing items, like for instance, if you have 20% chance not to remove charges, you go above that limit, right? So we're not talking about just staying at the 20%. We're going to get more skill quality, and we're going to bring that up to like 30 or 35%. And then we're going to add the 20% gem, and then we're going to go on the board, and we're going to get some more percentage from the board, and so forth and so on. You can easily scale that up to close to 100% chance not to remove charges, which is going to make a huge difference. We also have benefits of charges chances to be doubled, which is also crazy. And then shield charge gets increased maximum travel distance. I guess it does have charge in the name, doesn't it? And then we have like minions. Minions have some crazy things like Aura grants increased attack and cast speed, increased maximum life, reduced damage from the clerical minion, more minion attack speed for companions, minion duration for warband minions, more minion attack speed, minion attack speed increase, 30% more maximum life, more damage for the raging spirits, and so forth and so on. And in general, like there's so really good options like increased reservation efficiency for the frost mages. I'm pretty sure a bunch of them have spirit reservation efficiency. Reservation, yep. Bind Spectre, reservation efficiency. Eternal Rage, reservation efficiency. Lingering Illusion, reservation efficiency. This basically means that they cost less spirit and you can put on more of them, right? So if the skeletal mages cost less spirit and they have, better efficiency, then you can have more skeletal mages and you can basically stack them to the moon, right? In general, this kind of thing is absolutely ridiculously powerful. Going through here and looking at the individual skills that you're interested in building, like for instance, let's take a look at Comet. Comet has 40% increased damage against frozen enemies. Some of the other popular ones, so let's look at Twister. Twister has 20% more projectile speed, which is a multiplier, by the way, which is massive. That is a absolutely massive amount of damage increase, especially if you're using the rune specifically that gives you damage based on your projectile speed. Let's look at something like Spark. Spark fires additional projectiles. Let's look at Arc. Arc has projectiles deal 3% more damage, multiplier, for each hit remaining in its chain. This means that Arc scales its damage based on the number of remaining chains. So to translate that in a way that you can understand, the less targets, the more damage. In other words, if you keep scaling the chain damage and you fight a single target, then the single target will take a massive chongus amount of more damage, just simply for the fact that he's the only target left alive. Arctic Armor gives armor per stage, which is amazing, by the way. Has multiple stages. I mean, overall, there's just a lot of really good options here as far as the recovery goes, or the additional effects go. Explosive Grenade gives additional projectiles. Entangle has more fissure limits. Forge Hammer gets extra damage as fire. Fortifying Cry gives more defensiveness, so you get more guard gained. Frostbolt gets more projectile speed, which I'm sure you could scale with the projectile damage mod. Frostbomb is absolutely crazy. Frostbomb gets more limits. So you get 3 additional Frostbombs plus the initial Frostbomb, which is 4, which means you can easily do things like this. And have 4 Frostbombs going at the same time so that you can get maximum exposure effects, which is actually kind of crazy. If you take a look at mine right now, you can clearly see limit 3 increased. So I get a limit increase. In fact, there's a lot of limit increases on the board in here. If you type in limits, you get Artillery Ballista gets more limits. You get Dark Effigy has more limit. Frostbomb has more limit. Raised Zombie gives more limit. Siege Ballista, Tornado has more limit. This is actually a pretty crazy one, which allows you to have like, I think it's like 4 or 5 tornadoes total, because you get the first tornado, you get 2 more from the quality. You can also get limit from other sources, and by the time you're done, you've got like 5 or 6 tornadoes on the screen, which is just absolutely insane. Tornado Shot also gives more limit, which is also really good. Tornado Shot is a really nice one to multiply your damage output. Works really good with Ice Shot and a bunch of other abilities. Just a very good ability in general. Pounce, you get more limit. So you get more summoned wolves, which is really good. That's actually crazy for some of the builds that require you to have a large number of minions, and the more minions you have, the more damage you deal. And then going even further in that, you know, we've got like extra. So Forge Hammer gets gain as extra fire. Wind Serpent's Fury gets 20% gain as extra chaos. Flash Grenade gets gain as extra lightning. I'm pretty sure Shield Charge, was it Shield Charge or Shield Wall? I think it was Shield Wall. Shield Wall gets gain as 20% physical damage as extra fire. And then we also have things like Resonating Shield, which is really nice, gives you 100% increased stun threshold while channeling, so you don't get knocked down while you're using it. It's kind of hard to go through everything, but the sheer scope of what's going on here makes me want to like take a look at pretty much any of these characters before I build them, before I decide on what Ascendancy I want to do. I'm always looking like, okay, well, what about the Gemling Legionnaire? What special bonuses does he have that, you know, is going to make me choose him over one of the other Ascendancies? And these quality bonuses, depending on your character, can be a massive way that you could just build your character. Tempest Bell has Bell hit limit, which is really nice. That's actually a very good bonus for the Tempest Bell. Whirling Slash has attack speed, which is actually really good because Whirling Slash is literally designed around you want to attack as fast as possible because you don't want to spend a long time building up the stages. So getting 40% more attack speed for Whirling Slash is actually pretty darn cool. More physical damage on Wing Blast. We've got chance not to count as empowered attacks, which is actually really good. That means you get multiple empowered attacks. More area of effect on Flame Breath is actually really nice. In general, I think you'll find that as you go through the list, you're going to find some really cool things. This one has marked enemies deal 10% less damage, which is actually pretty cool. That means that you don't even have to build a crit build. You could just run Sniper's Mark for like damage reduction. So far, I've made a bunch of characters on this. So, not looking at the menu, let's look at my actual skills, right? So, one of the things that I built around was Fangs of the Frost has 1.3 meters to melee strike range. It also has 0.4 meters to melee strike range as well. So, utilizing those two together with a melee strike range weapon, I'm basically like attacking from like a mile away, basically, as a melee character, which is kind of cool. I'm also using Shield Wall, so I'm getting that 26% of physical damage as fire, which is really effective. I'm also grabbing the extra Frostbomb limit, as I showed you guys earlier, which is very useful for me for removing resistances. So I get a massive amount of exposure. I'm currently building 63% maximum exposure applied, and I'm getting 2% per pulse. I have 4 Frost Bombs, so I'm basically getting, what is that, 4 times 2... So it's 8 essentially for all 4 of them pulsing at the same time, and they're pulsing multiple times. So like you get the initial 20% pulse plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is like 28, and then it scales from there relatively quickly. So because I can have multiple of them going at the same time, I'm getting like the full 63% almost every single time because they're all pulsing multiple times, as you can see. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's about 15 times, right? So you got 15 times 2, which is 30, times 4, which is already 120%. So every single time I cast Frostbomb with this, because I have the more limits, I'm getting the full benefits, right? Which is actually really nice. Freezing Mark is just a reduced mana cost. I'm not really sure about that one. Charge regulation is amazing. Its buffs grant 2% increased damage per charge. So the more charges you have, the more damage you're getting, which is really nice. Mirage Archer just gives reservation efficiency, which doesn't really seem like much, but I mean, that makes it from a 60 reservation skill to a 40, which is honestly pretty darn awesome because now you have a lot more spirit that you can spend on other things. And then, of course, I'm using Combat Frenzy in this build, and I have 1.3 seconds to gain a charge on Frenzy, which actually is kind of nice, reducing the delay, but Combat Frenzy is still kind of nerfed into the dirt, so I can't really say a lot for it. Overall, I'm just really impressed. This particular passive, this one passive point, is a massive Chongus passive point that will either, completely change the way that you build your character or give you like a massive amount of increased effectiveness. And that's kind of like the problem, is that a lot of people will look at it and be like, oh, well, it's just one skill, but it's really not one skill, right? It's like your main skill, your support skills, all of your spirit skills, right? And by the time you're done and you add up like all the benefits that it's giving you across the board from like multiple different character or multiple different skills, it actually adds up to a lot of effectiveness that your character gains. And your character just feels overall just much better. The reservation efficiency gets better. The limit number gets better. You start to hit from further away. Your AoE attacks do, like larger explosions, and it's amazing. I think without a doubt the Gemling Legionnaire kind of return. It's kind of funny because we were talking about this in the first like release of Path of Exile 2. The Gemling Legionnaire was one of the strongest characters. Being able to use 2 support gems instead of just 1 support gem of each type was actually pretty massive, and then they gave that to everybody, so everybody can use all the support gems now, and they took that away from the Gemling Legionnaire. And now here we are back again. The Gemling Legionnaire has these extra quality bonuses, and these extra quality bonuses are so good that literally you can build entire characters around them as far as like how you go. Like one of the things, for instance, Glacial Lance, I was building a character around just simply firing as many fully frenzy charged Glacial Lances as possible, because you can essentially get Glacial Lance to a 100% chance to remove charges on use. That allows you to have essentially a fully decked out Glacial Lance all the time with those frenzy charges. So you're just throwing frenzy charge empowered Glacial Lance after frenzy charge empowered Glacial Lance, and it's actually really fun. And there's, as I showed you earlier, there's a lot of abilities on the list that allow you to do this. Which allows you to just have 100% charge uptime on tons of abilities like Barrage or Explosive Spear. Explosive Spear is really fun to use with charges. There's also Falling Thunder is really good to use with charges. Lightning Spear, Spiral Volley is really fun to use with charges. I mean, there's tons of these are actually like extremely fun to use with charges. And if you have 100% uptime on the charges, well, then you can get the full powered version essentially all of the time, right? I think that's pretty much it with this ability. I think it's one of those things that you're going to have to explore. You're going to have to look. You're going to have to take some time and like scroll through the list. I will put this link in the description of the video for you guys. But if you want to look it up for yourself, there it is. And you guys can scroll through here and take a look at your favorite abilities and see what kind of additional benefits you can get. Now, another thing that we can talk about briefly is how you can potentially scale your quality past your normal 20%, right? So when you quality an item, you can quality the item with the base 20%, which is what you get from these little doodads, the gems, right? So these beautiful things, which we don't have any in the stash, the gem cutter prisms. The gem cutter prisms will increase you to 20. Well, how do you get further past 20% to take advantage of these effects even more? Well, there's a couple ways. So first off, you can get 2% quality here, 2% quality here, and 2% quality here. So that's a total of 2, 4, 6. That's 6% more quality on top of your normal amount. On top of this, you can also use things that give quality as well. So if you look on the board, you will find quality of all skills on items. There is quality of all skills that you can put on an amulet. There's quality of all skills on the Loreweave. There's also a specific passive that you can get on a imbuement or instillment. I believe, I can't remember the exact name of the instillment, but there is a hidden instillment that gives quality. I think it's like 5% quality. So by the time you're done, if you get a huge amount of quality from various sources, I mean, you're talking about, just as a guess here, let's pull up a calculator. You get like 20% base, you get 6% from the actual board. I believe you can get up to 5% from the Loreweave, and I'm pretty sure you can get like 4% from the amulet, and the passive is like another 5%, and you can easily get up to 40%, and I think you can get even higher than that. I'm pretty sure like the max is something like 50 some odd percent quality. So if you're trying to specifically scale the quality of these benefits to make them more effective, there are ways to scale your quality even more, and of course scaling quality scales all of your abilities, right? So every time you're scaling your quality, you're getting more of everything that you got. And of course, that's another thing that you have to consider here is these are not the only benefits of quality on the item, right? When you look at an item, the ability skills, they always have 2 benefits. So if you're going with a ability to scale, you know, damage, like for instance with Shield Wall, if we take a look at Shield Wall also has 40% more damage if destroyed by your skills, right? Well, it's at 52 now. So I've gained an additional 12% on top of the original 40 because I'm scaling quality, which means I'm getting the gain damage and I'm getting the more damage, and it's multiplying my damage even more, right? And this is just one of the benefits that you can get from quality, is just having these crazy additional bonuses. In the case of Frostbomb, when I scale quality, I'm also getting additional maximum elemental exposure, which is also technically more damage, because the more exposure you get, the more negative they go, and the more negative they go, the more damage you can deal, which is also really powerful. I think that's pretty much it for this ability. As always, do appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content, and as always, keep watching.